Sadkoviak, and continuing our spring overview series again tonight. We are pleased to once again be joined by Sammy Jacobs from the Hoosier Huddle and now on the Rivals Network, making his fifth appearance on this podcast. You got to be you're in the top three, man. Like, you're our go-to whenever we need someone to talk to, it seems like.
I'm always happy to talk college football and Indiana football. As Kirk Cignetti famously put his Google us, we cover Indiana football. And now basketball and other sports for Rivals too. So excited to be back on, excited to talk spring football with you guys. It's spring is, man, it's gone by quickly.
Sure has. The weather certainly doesn't feel like it, but it is still kind of jarring to look at the calendar and see we're in mid-April already. Clinton, sir, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I was a bit shocked this morning when I woke up and I felt a little bit cold in my house, but I let the dog out to go to the bathroom and there was snow on my patio. And I was like, what the hell is this? We were 70 last Monday. We had threats of tornadoes last Sunday and last week, and now there's snow on my patio. Like, only in Ohio or the Midwest can you experience all 4 seasons with their peak versions of storms in 1 week, and then next Monday we're supposed to be back to the mid 70s here in Ohio. So it's been crazy, but overall pretty good. As I mentioned to you guys pre-show, got a sick little one right now, and then the other one is balls to the wall, full of energy. So it's a fun contrast in the house right now. But happy to be on, and glad we could get Sammy on to talk some Indiana football. It's a really just another exciting year coming up. I mean, Sammy set us up last year in the summer with the hype that we needed to be on for Indiana, and we rode that train all year. So I'm excited to see year two. Mr. Ryan, how are you tonight?
Oh, I've done more painting in the last 48 hours than I care to ever do again, but I feel like I also said that the last time we talked about painting, and it always happens. But it's done. Happy it's over, and I haven't even started my work week yet because I don't work Monday, so that's going to be a real kick in the face tomorrow. So that'll be fun. Anyway,
How many hours you got tomorrow?
12, 7 to 7.
Nice. I'm at 11 and a half. 7 to 6:30. So
I got what do I have? 7:15 to 2:30.
Ah, rub it in, why don't you?
unless
See,
that's
at least
2:30 a.m. and then
yeah, no, that's no good. At least this time of year though, when I leave, the sun is still out. It's so bad in December because then I just don't see the sun at all throughout the course of the day, and that's when the
very depressing.
vitamin D deficiency really starts kicking in because we don't have any windows in our clinic. It's kind of a bummer.
Oh,
It's bad, man. We're like in the back corner of an ice rink. It's very dark and dreary.
no, we got some windows and we crack a door open when the weather's nice. So get a little fresh life in the building there.
Must be nice.
Well, guys, if you're joining us live tonight on YouTube, you can find us there at ITP CFB. Don't forget to press like and hit subscribe so you never miss a minute of the action as we continue to go through these spring previews tonight with our guy Sammy Jacobs from Hoosier Huddle. If you want to check us out on audio only, you can find us on any of your preferred podcast platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can also find us on your social media platforms of Instagram and Twitter/X at ITPCFB. Go ahead and give us a follow there to help us grow the show. Go back to you now, Ryan.
Oh, I don't know if you were tapping me back in there or what. So talking about Indiana here, Sammy, I feel like the tenor of this conversation is going to be vastly different than the first time we had you on back in the summer of 2024 when the message was we have hope. We really like the vibes and the mentality that Kurt Cignetti has brought to this program. And we saw it full bore in 2024, 11-1, a berth in the college football playoff. It certainly exceeded any reasonable expectation that could have been had. And now the challenge this offseason is how do you carry that momentum forward and build it into something sustainable? So from what you've been able to gather, in the postseason, after the playoff run, into spring practice, what has been the mentality of this Hoosiers team through spring ball so far?
It's back to business, and it's the same vibes that you kind of had last year of hey, last year. And coming 2024, 2023 was last year. And now going into 2025, it's 2024 is last year. And it's, it's practice is business as usual under Kirk Cignetti. It seems like all the social media from players and the program from last year has ended. I think there's a directive on that where anything about last year, it's in the past. It's not talked about, and it's full steam ahead to 2025. And it's they went back to the portal. They lost Heisman, what is it, eighth runner-up, Curtis Rourke, who might be a sleeper in the NFL draft.
The Maple Missile, I believe you donned him.
Yes, the Maple Missile. The Maple Missile. Absolute warrior of a quarterback, and IU will have to replace him. He played all season on a torn ACL. And then he played half the season where his thumb looked like it was, part of the giant foam finger hand. So, there is not enough to say about Curtis Rourke. You can't say enough about him and about what he meant to the program last year. However, Indiana brings in Fernando Mendoza. He has all the tools that you need to be a good quarterback in the Big Ten. You also bring in Roman Hemby, who adds home run threat to that running back room. Indiana had a good running game last year, but now you have a guy who could take it 90 yards to the house and things like that. The defense, while you lose CJ West, you get an All-American on each level back. And Michael Kamara, Aiden Fisher, D'Angelo Pons. You bring in Rylan Gandy from Pitt, who's an All-ACC player. Devin Boykin, a safety from NC State, who is an All-ACC player. Marion Knighton, who is an All-MAC guy over at NIU. Guys, this team might be more talented than last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1. Is there, to quote last year's preview, is there a world where IU goes 11-1? Yeah. But I don't know if you got tough road games at Oregon, at Penn State, at Iowa. Illinois at home is a tough one. Don't play Ohio State for the first time in forever, which is nice. Just to switch it up a little bit. But, man, this team on paper might be more talented than last year's team.
I did want to ask you about quarterback because obviously replacing a guy like Rourke, who certainly, a ton of talent, was former MAC Player of the Year, but you touched on it, a warrior, guy who was not afraid to put his body on the line, played the entire season with what should have been a debilitating injury, suffered a second debilitating injury halfway through the year and came back. A guy that, certainly very easy to rally around and it's not easy to replace. But now you have a guy in Mendoza who, gives me similar vibes from the way that he performed at Cal to what Curtis Rourke was coming into last year. And a guy who's seemingly healthy. What has been kind of the early returns on him from spring practice so far?
Just his arm talent. He threw at IU's Pro Day as well. And you kind of knew what he could do at Cal, but the offensive line at Cal was not good. And he's was always under pressure. IU's line should be better than Cal's line this year. You bring in Pat Coogan and Zen Michaelewski will move over to tackle as well. But just the arm talent from Fernando Mendoza is better than we thought, seeing it in person. Receivers say he spins it real well. He throws a good ball. He's tremendously accurate in practice and things like that. And he's kind of a goofball too, he's a relatable goofball. He was on one of the podcasts with one of the IU collectives. His favorite video game is Lego Star Wars, which automatically puts him at the top of my list of likable IU football players because that's the game my wife and I play all the time. Are those Lego games? They're so much fun. But Yeah, he knows how to lead. He's played in Power Four. He had a good, you know, a 3,000-yard passing performance at Cal last year, and he's ready to go. His younger brother's on the team too, and
I saw
Alberto.
that.
And
Yeah.
Alberto looks, he kind of came in with a funky throwing motion, but he's cleaned that up. He looks good too. He's a little smaller than his brother, um, but Alberto's going to push him, and I think that rivalry will up that room too. And then got Grant Wilson from ODU, kind of that insurance policy. What kind of stinks is Tyler Cherry's going to be out for the year. He suffered a knee injury in the college football playoff practices. Because he was a highly touted recruit, local guy too. But yeah, that quarterback room is probably as talented as it's been, man, probably since that 2013 room with Sudfeld, Trey Roberson, and Cam Kaufman.
Certainly.
I will say, from the portal class that Indiana brought in between Mendoza and Pat Coogan, that is two like walking T-shirt slogans. Between the just want to go. What did Mendoza say after that Cal game? Just want to go 85 yards with my boys, and then Pat Coogan's colorful pregame speeches before the playoff games, the 4 quarters of FU football. There's a lot of color on that team this year for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I think even with Signetti, there's still a lot of color with it. You had the Google Me, we win, and the emerging superpower of the Big Ten as well. So he's kind of toned that down, which I don't mind, because you did get your butt kicked by Notre Dame after saying you kicked the butt at top 25 teams, but it's something that the program needed at the time. And, it got you in the spotlight. You performed, all of it goes out the window if you went 5-7 last year and lose stupid games. But when you beat Michigan, you shut out Purdue 66-0. You're a missed field goal away from 69-0 in that game. You destroy Michigan State. You go out to the Rose Bowl, beat UCLA to kind of like announce yourselves and things like that. Yeah. Oh, the Nebraska game is, and now it's the second half with the backup quarterback. And then you go, College game day comes, and everybody's waiting for the emotional collapse after Big Noon kickoff, and you kick Washington's butt with your backup quarterback starting, and you face some adversity for the first time. So, he's toned that down, but he's got a lot of equity with this fan base, and apparently on the recruiting trail in the portal too.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of two pieces there. I want to dive to the running backs first. And I was kind of reading your guys' articles today, and I'm watching them last year. Indiana relied heavily on 2 running backs last year, with mixing in 3 to 4. And then you guys lose Justice Ellison, 884 yards last year, 5.3 yards per carry with 10 touchdowns. Lawton's gone, 668, 4.74 yards per carry, and 12 TDs. You mentioned Roman Hemby coming in from Maryland. That's been a guy I've kind of followed for a couple of years. Hopefully I say his last name. Is it BB Jr.
Yes.
from UAB? And then Cuono? Freshman? Cuono coming in, and then you return, is it Kalen Black? So kind of in your guys' article, you alluded to that Hemby's probably the projected starter, but then maybe Black and BB to be the main rotations. Kind of how do you see the offense utilizing the running backs this year? A focus of 2, kind of leaning into 3 to 4 again this year. Your thoughts?
Maybe you go back to Sig's time at JMU, they used 3 backs. And I think this day in college football, you need to use 3 backs anyway. Nobody's getting 25 carries anymore for 12, which what Ohio State play, 15 games, 16 games. It's just not sustainable. Roman Hemby is probably going to be your starter. That's what it's looked like in practice so far. He's a home run guy. He adds that threat, which IU really hasn't had. I guess Sean Shivers had it a little bit, but probably since Tevin, maybe.
Oh, loved Tevin Coleman. Loved him.
But yeah, and he's a threat catching the ball out of the backfield as well. Lee Beebe Jr. and Kalen Black will be in the backfield. They're hard runners. They're not going to break off. I mean, they could break off an 80-yard run, but that's like not their go-to. They're going to smash mouth football, kind of like Tyson Lawton and Justice Ellison. Redshirt freshman Kobe Martin's back too. He had a nice 2 games for IU last year in his redshirt year, and then if you get down to that redshirt into the true freshman, you might see him against ODU, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. But if he's playing meaningful minutes in Big Ten games, probably suffered an injury or two. But this running back room, I think, has a little bit more diversity. I talked about that last year with the wide receivers. You have a little bit more diversity in like last year's running backs. You could dress the guy up in the same uniform number and you would think it's the same guy. They were all like 5'10", 220, built the same way, ran the same style, and they're good players. But now there's a little bit more diversity. You have the guy who can take it 80 yards. You have the guy who could pound it up the middle. Kalen Black is kind of your shifty guy who could make guys miss in space, but also put his shoulder down and run somebody over. So it's going to be a fun room to watch.
And then, we talked about the guys that Mendoza's going to have to throw the ball to. You get Surratt Cooper back, EJ Williams back if able to stay healthy this year. But you guys did lose Tyler Morris, your transfer from Michigan. And from what I was reading up, was supposed to be more of your kind of slot guy. And now they're kind of looking who to fill in at the slot receiver. Kind of thoughts about the receiving room this year and maybe who can step up in that role there?
Yeah, losing Tyler Morris is tough because you had Miles Price and Keyshawn Williams there last year who provided a lot of sparks, not only in the receiving game, but in the punt return game too. Miles Price had a big punt return against Washington that helped seal the game, and Williams came in when Price was knocked out of the Michigan game and had a nice 20-some-odd yard return that really sealed that game, set him up for the field goal to put him up 5 with 2 minutes left there. Both of them in the slot were real weapons, and you thought Tyler Morris could be that guy who could return punts and who could be in the slot and in space. So that might be one of those late, hey, we need to go to the portal and get a guy type situations. We'll see. IU has three or four spots open right now. And we'll see what happens when the spring portal window opens. But they've been working EJ Williams in there, and he's a bigger guy. Look, when he's healthy, he's an absolute stud. You go back to those last 4 games against in 2023, he had like 20 catches for 240 some odd yards against Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Purdue when he was healthy there. And then he was coming on last year late before he decided to go to the portal and redshirt, which is the whole interesting situation there anyway. But he made a big time catch against Northwestern right before half to help set up a score. He had a catch against Nebraska, and he just felt that his time was coming. He wanted to get healthy. He wanted to be 100%. But the portal was the only option because under SIG's rules, if he thinks you could help the team, you're not in charge of whether or not you're redshirt. Now, EJ was mature enough to not burn any bridges, said, hey, I need to do what's best for me, get healthy. And while he did visit another school, SIG called him up, and he's back. So it wasn't – there was no animosity. He loves the guy personally, and I think if he's healthy, he's a big-time weapon for IU. Omar Cooper is another guy who could play in the slot. And then you have 2 freshmen coming in, LeBron Bond from Norfolk, Virginia, and then Miles Kendrick as well, kind of fit that slot position. They're in for spring. Bond is super quick and could be that punt returner and things like that. People think he reminds them of Jalen Lucas. I really haven't seen LeBron Bond in person open it up. like that, just because we haven't had the opportunity to. But he has a chance to be something special.
Sammy, on the other side of the ball on this defense, having a chance to watch them in person during that playoff game, I was super impressed with the way that they attack the line of scrimmage. And I mean, if you take the long touchdown run out, Notre Dame did not have success running the football in that game at all. You got a big kind of recommitment, I guess we can call it, with Kamara deciding to forego the draft and coming back. You touched on Pons in the secondary as well, but having to replace CJ West on the defensive line. Who are some up and coming kind of breakout names that we should be keeping our eye out over the next couple of months that can help this Hoosiers defense maintain the high level that they had last year?
I mean, yeah, you losing C.J. West. James Carpenter was also an absolute dog. He did have more rushing yards against Purdue than Purdue did against Indiana. Just want to throw that out there.
Love it.
So, those two guys were two important pieces of the defensive line. But now you bring in Dominic Ratcliffe from Texas State, who was an all-conference performer, and then I think it's Hosea Wheeler from Western Kentucky. He was their best interior defensive lineman, built like C.J. West, and knowing IU's defensive line coaches, they'll have them coached up to be there. Now, young guys that need to step up, we saw a little bit of it last year. Mario Landino, he's now going to be a sophomore. He's bigger. Tyreek Tucker, who came on late last year with IU, he'll play a bigger role. You hope that one of the DePepe brothers can be healthy and step into a role along the defensive line. And then, you get Kamara back and you look pretty good. Now, they probably need another edge rusher, and that's probably where they're looking at in the portal to fill one of those spots. But you've got some young guys on that defensive line. Marcus Burris is back. He was a big-time recruit that went to Texas A&M and then to IU. He's a nice depth piece. There's just a lot of young guys there who could step up and either freshman or redshirt freshman. And Sig's not afraid to play a freshman. Landino played a lot last year in some big spots. So defensive line is probably, I would say, I don't know. There's no real weaknesses on this team. But it's the one that you're probably hoping that all these transfers hit.
When we talk about transfers, and Signetti again in year one did a phenomenal job in who he brought in. But looking back at last year, and I called it a Signetti encore for year two. So you guys were 11-1, 8-1 in conference, finished the season 11-2 overall, obviously in the playoff appearance. How much was this past season able to kind of springboard that portal and recruiting cycle into 2025 and even kind of beyond that? Because as it seen now, Indiana's been to the playoff, and Joel Klatt has talked about this before, about the expanded playoff being a help to teams of like, look, we made it. Help us get further. Help us continue this success. So just in general, your vibe on how that helped out, just kind of springboarding the future for Indiana football.
Yeah, I'm going to start off. I hate the expanded playoff. I know it helped IU. It's going to keep expanding. You're going to get 24 teams in, and it's going to be dumb and stupid and kill the regular season. So you can save that for future podcasts in 2026 when it's 16. Yeah. It's dumb. It's going to become 2 super leagues, and it's really going to kill what makes the sport special. But with that said, I think that year, the 2024 year, made people realize how big of an impact a good football program could have at IU. And you never really had proof of it. You had people like me saying, listen, you got to have a good football program to make your athletic department go. One sellout at Memorial Stadium is worth like 3.5 sellouts at Assembly Hall, and things like that. Not only that, you have TV money, but now you sold out the final 4 games of the season. It's a hot ticket. You added a personal seat donation thing to your season ticket holders and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it's impacting it. You got people willing to spend money to go to games, and that Purdue ticket, that Michigan ticket, getting prices a couple $100. You look at the FIU game at the beginning of the year. I couldn't give my seats away. If you go, they were on SeatGeek for like $2. So you look at the impact of that way, and then donation wise, of course, it's all going to become an NIL battle anyway, especially in the portal. And so now you could go to people and say, listen, this is what happens when you invest in football, and this is how fun was 2024 and stuff like that. So they, went back to the people. They'll get their money, and it seems like the checks cleared for the portal class in 2025, and you have a chance to look. People are going to say IU's going to take a step back from 11 wins. Fine, whatever. There's not many steps forward you could take from 11 wins anyway. So look, if IU goes 9-3, and what would that make up? 6-3 in the Big Ten, and you go to a high-level bowl game, that is a very successful second season because we haven't seen them back to back. You had 19-20 a little bit, but then when 20-21, you cratered, and that just destroyed the Tom Allen era. You couldn't build off the success in 15 and 16 on 6-6 seasons and stuff like that. It's time to stack seasons, and I think that's what 2024 showed you, is that, hey, let's spend a little money, let's get a team on the field, and let's see how far we could take this thing.
I think this will be fun to have you back on in like 8 months to have this conversation, because I'm very much not looking forward to the discourse that if, looking at Indiana's schedule right now, I mean, you open up Big Ten play with Illinois, who seems to be everyone's dark horse playoff team. And then coming out of a bye, you have to play at Autzen, one of the toughest places to play in America. And
I used last trip to Austin was a win.
Nice.
Oh, we're looking for a win streak then. But like the discourse that's going to come out of that, you get 2 close losses, it's 4-2, and everyone's like, look at that, Indiana plays a football schedule. It's just like, okay, so you can't beat Oregon and Autzen, you can't beat Penn State at Beaver Stadium, one of the best Penn State teams of this generation, it seems like. Congratulations, that makes you like every other football team in America. I'm just not looking forward to this discourse.
Yeah, I've probably said it before on this, and it goes to the expanded playoff and all that. There's too much attention on it's a national championship or bust.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It just is. I mean, you look at the Ohio flag behind you. Ohio wants to beat whoever their rival, Miami of Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your big rival.
Yep.
You want to beat the Red Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Illinois wants to beat whoever the Mountain West is going to have as their rival. Kent State and Toledo want to shoot. Toledo has a rocket aimed at the midfield of Kent State. Like, that's what makes college football great. Is that it's made for crazy people. It is not made for the wine and cheese crowd who's like, oh man, I got to go to the national championship game, and I got to rub elbows with the elite. Nah, it is made for these sickos who will watch Toledo play Kent State and go, yep, we're going to shoot that rock in at the 50-yard line, and stuff like that. So that's it's like, look, if IU goes 8-4, 9-3, and your 3 losses are, like you said, at Iowa, at Oregon, and at Penn State, you're really going to be mad? You mean you beat Purdue 2 years in a row, you get the spittoon back 2 years in a row, and you go to a high-level bowl game in the warm weather? Sign me up.
Yeah, maybe this is a July episode when there's nothing else to talk about, and we just bitch for 90 minutes about all the good things about college football that are going by the wayside, because every conversation has to be the 12-team college football playoff, and every college game day has to start with a mansplaining of this is what the playoff is. It's like, if you have to give me a 7-minute diatribe about how the playoff works, I don't think I like that.
No, and really, in any given year, are there more than 3 teams that deserve the national shot at the national title? No,
probably not.
Listen, I'm on the side of I don't want it to get any bigger.
Yeah, you're on the side of my team lost to an inexplicable game to close the season and then got a mulligan.
Hey, I can't help it. They finally got their heads out of their butts and made it.
Boo! Boo this man.
But I was a fan of 6 to 8. I can live with 12, but the fact that we're going to be 14 to 16 in 2 years, and they're going to
And
be
it's
on
half
that.
the SEC and half the Big Ten. If you're going to play the fairness card, give me every single conference get somebody in, which would be what, 10, and then two wild cards.
Yeah.
So when Ohio State has lost their 9th in a row to Michigan and gets in at 11-1, they could get one of the wild cards.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sport, though. You said it perfectly. It's for all of us crazies who love this thing 365 days a year. And you talk about the wine and cheese crowd. That's essentially what the Super Bowl feels like it's become. Is a corporate event to where people like us, hell, we can't even afford to go. I remember when the Bengals made the Super Bowl, not even thinking about flights to LA, but a ticket to get in was $8,000.
I'm a Jets fan. I don't have to worry about that.
Oh, man. As much as Joe Burrow gets sacked, he gets sacked more than bags of groceries. I don't know if I'm going to get to see him back in a Super Bowl. So
I will never see my team in the Super Bowl.
Man, Justin Fields taking.
No, stop it. Stop it, Clinton.
You guys got Jeremy Ruckert on that team. You guys got Garrett Wilson.
He's the next former Jets quarterback.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel that way. This is no dig at your Jets. That's not quite the spot I wanted for Fields. I kind of was hoping he'd stay in Pittsburgh. But we'll see what happens with those guys. I love Garrett Wilson, and I love him for the Jets. I just wish the guy could have a consistent quarterback for you guys.
Yeah, that would be nice.
At least you're free of Aaron Rodgers, though.
And that is true. That was a great 4 plays.
Best Jets career. All right, before we descend further into nihilism, let's we'll break at that, Sammy. I want to give you the opportunity though to give the our listeners who have who've caught you in the past at Hoosier Huddle talk to us about the Rivals partnership you guys are with now.
Yeah, so it's kind of bittersweet because we moved to a paid platform, and we really enjoyed writing for the folks and putting stuff out. But it was 13 years of putting free stuff out and making pennies on the dollar. So it's a proud moment because we put so much work into this. The team I had last year was fantastic, and I've had some fantastic people since 2013 help out as well. And this is as much a tribute to them as it is to the guys who are writing for me now. But yeah, Rivals approached us, and it was a no-brainer. It allows us to cover Indiana football better than we could without the resources that Rivals provides. We now have all the recruiting tools that we need to cover recruiting. We have, the national network to talk with people who cover different teams to get inside scoops on them and stuff like that. So we'll continue to have our free articles on there as always, but we also have some inside stuff and premium content that if you sign up, there's a 60-day free trial right now, and I believe the code is Hoosier Huddle. And I'll get that. I'll pull that up right now. It is Hoosier Huddle, but it gives us a chance to cover the team the way the team deserves to be covered. It's promo code Hoosier Huddle, 60-day free trial. The expiration on that is April 21st. So if you want to see what Rivals is all about, give us a try out. Hoosier Huddle, the site. If you go to HoosierHuddle.com, it'll redirect you to the Rivals site. Otherwise, it's indiana.rivals.com as well. Great guys over at Rivals too, and it's an exciting time. We can now upgrade our podcasts as well, so we don't sound like we're calling into Mike and the Mad Dog in 1997. So it's going to be a fun time, and we're starting to cover other sports as well as basketball, women's basketball, baseball. It's softball if they make the NCAA tournament. Men's soccer is a big success over at IU too. So we'll have all the people in place to cover all the IU sports that people need, but with a larger focus than they've had on football in the past, and that's what we do. we cover football and we cover Indiana football. Google us.
Well, we're fired up for you, man. I think that's awesome, and it's excited to continue to see you guys grow and thrive on your site over there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and we're part of the college huddles as well, and seeing those guys do their thing, and seeing all these, like the FIU podcast got national exposure too, and things like that. So it's it's like being in the minors and seeing one of your guys get called up, and hoping they're successful. So I appreciate you guys, appreciate the time, and yeah, I mean I could talk Indiana football for hours, but it's a work night, and we got to get to bed.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah,
Same.
the national championship games tonight for basketball.
Yes.
Oh, I
Currently
completely
a
forgot
3-point
about
game
that.
with 34 seconds left in the half. Houston up by 3.
Wait, you said the half? It's 9. It's my bedtime, Clinton. It's at halftime.
I know. Why do
Holy
we
moly.
start these games at 9 o'clock?
Yeah, I don't know.
The working man does not benefit from that.
No, the West Coast man does.
Yeah.
I do miss the West Coast. I do miss the West Coast. All right, Sammy Jacobs from Hoosier Huddle on the Rivals Network, sir. Thank you once again for joining us and for your insights tonight, sir. We will be in touch, I'm sure, in the near future for you.
All right, thank you guys.
Take care, Sammy.
See ya.
Clinton, now we are moving to your wheelhouse, the Ohio State Buckeyes. You're defending national.
Pitches are you gonna throw me, or are you gonna throw me curveballs?
What do you mean? I was just going to let you talk for 15 minutes.
You said it was my wheelhouse, so I need some home run pitches. Don't throw me curveballs.
I can throw an okay knuckleball, and otherwise it is a straight meatball. I don't even think I can throw you a meatball because my command of the strike zone is so poor. If I hit the strike zone, you will hit it far, but you will more than likely walk, or I will hit you.
Well, as long as I'm getting on base, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, OPS, on base plus slugging. The Buckeyes, your defending national champions, fuck you, are losing a lot, Clinton. It is going to be an interesting offseason in Columbus, not just from a roster turnover, but from a coaching turnover standpoint. Where do you want to start here?
Let's touch on Patricia real quick. I know we've talked a little bit about him, but there's been just further updates in spring football. The players love him, man. And it's not like they didn't enjoy Knowles. Knowles is obviously a brilliant mind. He did a fantastic job. He did what he came here to do at Ohio State. Now he's moved on to Penn State. But there was so much, I feel like, initial mixed feedback, especially in here in Columbus. I don't know what Michigan people thought or around the country thought, but a mixed bag of thoughts on the Matt Patricia hire. A lot of people looked back to his tenure at the Lions and like, that stunk. And it's not like, they said, well, he relied on everything with Bill Belichick and the Patriots, blah, 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 blah. Will this work? It was very similar to Chip Kelly's hire last year, right? You're bringing in this more of an NFL type guy. How can they vibe? Well, it's been an absolute home run thus far, Ryan. He has been said by players as personable. He's more involved with them. He's very relatable. You see him all the time. He's out on the field this spring with his arm around guys, just talking to them. And if you've seen Matt Patricia prior to Ohio State, he's about a 1/4 of the man he used to be. He has done a tremendous job with his own weight loss too. So he's a completely different guy. No big scraggly beard anymore, but just super humble. He seems to love the players. They love him. They like the ability to kind of be personable with him, which apparently was not Knowles' strong suit. That's not to say they didn't care about players or anything like that. They just seem to think Patricia's a little more relatable. And I think that's a plus for Ohio State. And we've talked before, so go back and listen to the Coaching Carousel episode, guys, about his multi-scheme, things like that. And then your next big hire, or I guess it's not a hire. But
before you go to the offensive coordinator, I do want to say, I think that's a little bit of revisionist history on Chip Kelly, because I think that was pretty much universally praised as a home run hire.
You did not praise that as a home run hire. The first time you texted me, you said,
okay, the first time,
dumpster fire.
Well, the first time, because I said the motherfucker wouldn't recruit, and he didn't recruit, and then he left after a year. But then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And literally everyone who has a brain, and I am not among those people, was like, wow, this is going to be great.
Yes. I would think there was some skepticism, a teeny bit here, not a ton.
Okay, in Columbus, that's
Yes.
not a good sample size, because saying in Columbus is like saying I talked to my fucking third grade cousin about the quadratic equation, and he was like, "What's that?" No shit, you're a third grader. You're not supposed to know what the quadratic equation is. You're an Ohio State football fan. No shit, you don't have any reason.
Yeah, I think Patricia has the same possibility of being a home run hire, though.
Oh no, it's going to be boom or bust. Like, that's like, I think, like, we talked about this with Wink Martindale. We did not have a podcast at the time, but I talked about this internally with Al Golden when Notre Dame hired him. Like, if you pluck a guy from the NFL ranks who has like either no college experience or hasn't been in the college game in like a decade and a half, it goes one of two ways. Either it's a fantastic success or it fucking bombs out terribly. And for Michigan last year, it looked like it was going to be the first one until about midseason, and then it looked more like the second one. I don't know. I think like maybe if Matt Patricia had an epiphany and was like, hey, the way that I treated people in Detroit was not how you are supposed to do things, and I actually can't be Bill Belichick because you're only allowed to be a douchebag if you're the greatest coach of all time. Maybe that resonates with him. And I mean, you adopt the personality of your head coach, right? Like, if your head coach is kind of a curmudgeon, he's kind of an asshole, he's kind of the loud, screamy, hard ass type of guy, then that, I feel like, brings out the worst tendencies in your assistants, where if you kind of lean that way, then you're just going to kind of lean into that. But if you're a coach who has, a good culture, who coaches players tough, but is ultimately respectful of them and their boundaries and doesn't ride them like it's the 1980s and you're trying to make guys run until they puke, then I think that's a way you can kind of set that in motion to be a more positive environment. And that certainly seems like an environment, just hearing Ryan Day talk, that he seems to foster more. So maybe that does bring out the better qualities of Matt Patricia as opposed to the worst qualities of Matt Patricia that he seemed to lean into when he was in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, all rave reviews so far since spring stuff, and they've got to interview him. It's been a pretty good job. And then you flip the coin to the other side now on the offense. Hartline has been, you call it OC for multiple years now, but he's the true OC now. He calls the plays. He's had a headset on, I believe, every single spring practice from what I've heard, to just get him accustomed to that, and then like feeding in and out with play calls, and then Day can kind of chime in. I don't know what else to say other than this man has been he's exceeded expectations and been phenomenal at everything he's done thus far. I would expect much of the same with him as offensive coordinator this year. People worry that he'll lose some of his recruiting prowess. I think it only helps him, because I think he's going to want to feature receivers a little more in the offense, given that he is the wide receivers coach. So I think as far as your questions on coordinators, I think Patricia's been a home run hire. And I think it's only a matter of time before Hartline is a home run hire. I mean, maybe that's a little bit what they call it, rose-colored glasses. Is that what they say there? I mean, there is clearly the potential chance that it doesn't go well. But if it's a dumpster fire in the middle of the season, it's not like you don't have Ryan Day there to at least call plays for you the rest of this year if needed. So, do you have any thoughts on Hartline? I know you kind of elaborated that again in the coaching carousel episode, which you guys should go check out. But
no, it's fascinating because, I mean, on the one hand, it was time, right? Like, you can only keep him as OC in name only before making him a play caller for so long, before eventually the guy's like, okay, I've done literally, especially now that you win a national title, right? Like, that's kind of, I mean, that's the goal for everyone. And once you hit that goal, all of a sudden, like, everything else maybe starts to come into focus a little bit more. Whereas, like, you're chasing this one thing for so long that you're not thinking about anything else. And here's a guy who's been one of the hottest assistant coaches in college football for the last, 5 to 7 years since he's been on staff there. An ace recruiter. I mean, that's going to get you interviews at a lot of places for promotions, just having that on your resume. But ultimately, the love for Ohio State trumps out. But then you win a national title. And at a certain point, the guy's going to be like, look, I'm not going to be the wide receivers coach at my alma mater forever. Like, I need a new challenge. I need the next step. I can only keep reeling in top 100 guys for so long before it starts to get old and I get bored of it. So you had to make the move eventually, or you were eventually going to lose him. Maybe it wasn't this offseason. Maybe it was next offseason. Maybe it was in 2 off seasons. But I think now that you've won that national title and you've accomplished that goal, that clock starts ticking. So you had to do it, and it's a fascinating thing because it seemed like Ryan Day kind of was drag kicking and screaming to giving up play calling duties. Like, did not seem like it was something that he necessarily wanted to do. It seemed kind of like a, look, you need to do this because we're not going to, I don't know if it was like an edict from the athletic director or the president or whoever the fuck he reports to, who's like, look, you need to do something different here because what you're doing now is not working. And he coincided this plan to do it by bringing in like highly respected offensive minds in the sport. First it was Bill O'Brien and then it was Chip Kelly. Like, those are 2 of the preeminent offensive minds of this era. And now you're handing the keys to a guy who's never done it before. He's a guy that you know well. He's been on your staff for your entire tenure, but he's never done it before. And I wonder what the urge for him is going to be. Like, we talked about this last offseason. Like, what's the urge going to be if Ohio State's stalling? Is Ryan Day going to jump in? And we saw during the Michigan game that no, he's going to sit there with his head up his ass like Chip Kelly and just not do anything. But now that it's like, and that was like the fascinating conversation too, right? Like, I know that, Chip Kelly's your subordinate now, but he used to be your boss. Like, are you going to override this guy? Now it's a different dynamic where your offensive coordinator is a guy who's been your subordinate. If he's not doing a satisfactory job, are you going to big time him and take over play calling in the middle of a game? I don't know. Probably not, but that'll be something fascinating the first time, especially with a younger offensive line, a younger quarterback. Like, you don't have the veteran leadership on the line or with Will Howard to kind of lean on in game, right? Like, you have a lot of inexperience coming up together at the same time here. So the first time Ohio State hits a rut against Texas is Brian Kelly, Jesus Christ. Is Ryan Day going to come in and be like, listen, I'm taking this over the rest of the game?
I think for the Texas part, no. I think you'd have to swallow it. And it's game 1. And you never want to live in a world where it's acceptable to lose, but you can expect...
But it is. It is.
But you can expect errors and mistakes, right? And losing the Texas game, 1, doesn't even cost you a Big Ten championship appearance. You've got Grambling the following week. You got the Ohio Bobcats after that. Like, you've got time to build up to what essentially is a 2-game Big Ten season, which is Penn State, Michigan. You got to go to Wisconsin. That's not going to be easy, but...
buddy, you got a 3-week stretch where it's at Washington, hosting Minnesota, at Illinois, at Wisconsin. That's pretty tough to do in midseason.
I don't think that's not easy, but I think if you're looking at the same old top 4 premier name teams, it's Penn State, Michigan, Texas are your big 3, and then those other games are like a 1B, 1C. I wouldn't say like level 2, but they'll be very important. But there's a little bit of time to get it rolling if things aren't perfectly game 1. This is a year in which maybe you hope that you would have started with a Grambling, but you also get a game 1 scenario that you get to see what Brian Hartline's made of. It's a massive game, week 1. They're coming to your house. You want to protect it. We'll see what happens. You mentioned the leadership. I mean, there's a ton of loss, and we can go over every single person they lost, and then they're all likely going to get drafted. But let's look at the bigger pictures. It's replacing the departed of the defensive line, right? Tuimalau, Sawyer, Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton, they're gone. And it's got to be a next man up mentality. There are some guys who have been there. Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry look to be kind of the feature pieces. Caden Curry is just this high motor energy guy. Now, can he put it all together in a starting role? You look at your defensive tackles, who are Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, who as a freshman got playing time last year. You have Jason Moore, who flashed in the spring last year but didn't really do a whole lot for you in the season. Taiwan Malone, who's I believe, in his second or third year now at Ohio State after playing football and baseball at Ole Miss. Will Smith Jr., again, the son of former defensive end stud Will Smith at Ohio State, which also brought in Logan George from Idaho State, who is acclimating pretty well to Ohio State. But the big key one is C.J. Hicks, who is now seeming to be utilized off the edge, and there's a lot of projection that he's might be a double-digit sack guy. It's been a name that we've waited on for 4 years. As Ryan loves to say, he's a former 5-star. He's in his 4th year. That has not been repeated on the Ohio State podcast that I listened to. It has not been said, well, he's a former 5-star. It has been just true excitement about his potential ability. We talk about it all the time. Trench play is so important with, Ohio State's losing Josh Simmons and McLaughlin last year. That could have derailed a team, and they were able to put it together. New line coach. We can go down that rabbit hole another time. I kind of wanted for Ohio State the big pieces, and D-line is one of them. It's a huge change. You're going to also look at quarterback. That's the next biggest question. And Ryan, I don't know how much you've looked or read about. Sayin and Keenholz are the projected two. Not to say that Tavian St. Clair can't do it. He's just never competed at a level like this. He has all the tools, per Ryan Day's interview today, to be an extremely successful Ohio State quarterback. A lot of people are riding and dying off Student Appreciation Day, and that Keenholz looked better than Sayin. And oh my gosh, like guys, last year Devin Brown had better days than Will Howard a couple times in spring. I do not think we should live on the do or die for quarterbacks starting in April, when we have the time until August to decide. Sayin's your 5-star, top-level prospect, a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller of a guy. Keenholz, I believe, 4-star, but 3-sport athlete and extremely good at all of them. So he's now year 3 in the system. A lot of people have a panic and flashback to the Cotton Bowl, where he was thrown to the fire after Kyle McCord leaves, and he didn't look good, and he was ill-prepared. He didn't come into the team until June that year, so he hadn't had a lot of time in the system. So you look at this, it's the biggest position on all teams. It's who's your quarterback this year. We've already talked about this in our quarterback episode that we did. It's an interesting year in the Big Ten as far as quarterbacks, right? There's not a lot proven or a lot to go off of. So I think for 2025, this is going to be a battle that you guys can expect to take all the way till August, barring an injury or just somebody falling off a cliff. They're going to ride this thing out till August.
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems to be the way people are doing things now to keep everyone in the fold.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to give anything away. This can be said for Notre Dame when we get there. And anybody with a quarterback battle with the threat that someone could leave in the portal in spring, you don't want to tilt your hand. Even if it was slightly lopsided, you're not selling that shit at all in spring because you need your quarterback room intact. Otherwise, you're going out in the spring portal and adding another new guy who is not familiar with your system. Or in today's world, you could be like Michie Johnson for Ohio State's basketball, and you start at Ohio State, go to South Carolina, go back to Ohio State, and then go back to South Carolina. I guess you could play that game in football now. You got a new big 3, though. Emeka Egbuka, finally gone from Ohio State, and I don't mean finally in a good way. It's a sad day. He's a phenomenal wide receiver. But Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and Brandon Ennis. And Ryan, we know all the talk is Jeremiah Smith. Apparently we had to have 2 police officers help guide him through Student Appreciation Day because he had such a large crowd. But so many people need to become aware of number 1, and that is Brandon Ennis. He has been an absolute monster in spring. He has put on a little weight, it sounds like, or maybe he's lost a little weight. I don't know. They're just saying he looks more athletic on the whole. He's been an absolute beast in spring, so that's another big-name Ohio State wide receiver to keep your eyes on, as well as Mylan Graham and then Quincy Porter, who lost his black stripe in the past few days as a freshman. Another big guy sitting at 6'4". So Ohio State will not lack for size in that wide receiver room this year. Ryan, any thoughts from you on the offense, kind of general expectations, step backs from this team off of a national title year?
No, man, you're the expert. You got all the data that we need there.
Expert. Jesus.
Yeah,
I hope
in
the wrong
quotation
person
marks.
doesn't hear that. Yeah.
In
Bozo.
quotation marks.
Bozo expert. And then you can kind of look, at the other side of the ball here, defense again. You bring back Sonny Styles, and then you're going to move Arvell Reese now into a starter. What I see here is just athletic dudes at linebacker. Styles is 6'4", 236. Reese is 6'4", 240. Absolute monster. Styles obviously played all year last year as a starter after moving from safety, and now Arvell Reese moves into a starting role. Played 274 snaps in the regular season last year. Then he obviously had some snaps in the postseason. Ohio State is also extremely high on Peyton Pierce, Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alford, and even some love there for Mr. Garrett Stover. James Laurinaitis cooking on the trail, man. He is bringing the linebacker room back to the Silver Bullets for Ohio State. We all have high expectations, perhaps the Brian Hartline path for James Laurinaitis here in Columbus. What makes it easy for you when you return arguably the best defensive player in the country on your defense being Caleb Downs, but there is a heavy battle for the opposing safety spots being Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford. And then your corners are pretty much locked up. Igbinosun, I like to hold. Jermaine Matthews. Devin Sanchez, who was the top freshman corner in the 2024 class, will be vying for reps. Probably not starting, but playing a ton. Then we have Aaron Scott, and then Lorenzo Styles and Bryce West to kind of fill that Jordan Hancock role from last year. But it's a ton to replace, Ryan, off of a national championship season. I think the biggest thing is we both feel that Ryan Day's bought himself some time now that he's had that national championship. Never run a world in Columbus will it be acceptable to go 10-2, but you've now shown the path that 10-2 isn't the end of your season. You can still contend. You can still win a national championship. I think the onus for this team is just continue to learn, develop some of the youth that they have, and gel, especially with the new guys on the D-line and the O-line. You brought in 2 outside transfers to take your tackle spots. Philip Daniels from Minnesota seems to still be maybe a little raw to be playing at this level of Power 4 ball, having a little bit of a tough time with some of the pass rush. Run blocking seems to be okay. But all in all, man, it's been a fun spring here in Columbus. I think expectations are high, as they always are. Number 1 goal is beat Michigan, and they're prepping hard to get ready for Texas week 1.
There you go. There you have it. That is our spring previews on the Indiana Hoosiers and the Ohio State Buckeyes. We will be back with you on Thursday talking about Iowa and Michigan State. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yep. May have a guest on Iowa. We are waiting for 100% confirmation. And then next Monday, Clinton will be flying solo, so let's see how bad I can screw this up. But I will be joined by Redcast Rob to talk Nebraska spring preview and then do my best to chit-chat about the Michigan Wolverines on my own. I wouldn't dare try to do 2 guests in one night because it is too much of a challenge for me IT-wise that I would likely screw up somehow and mess up the episode. So we're going to stick to 1 guest. We will be eating our peanut butter egg sandwiches, as Ryan will be sure drinking a beer and enjoying a Red Wings game, while Rob and I eat a delicious peanut butter egg sandwich live on the air.
That's
Sorry
so
you missed
disgusting.
that, Ryan.
That's so disgusting.
He said he's working something up himself as well to maybe add on to this sandwich. I don't know, but
I don't think I like how that sounds.
Knowing Rob, who the hell knows what
it's going to probably be one of the most heinous inventions.
I'm sure it is, dude. Ryan's gonna have to just come back or he's gonna have to pull his phone up at 9:00 next Monday just to see what concoction Rob comes up with.
Just text me that you're still alive.
I'll have peanut butter all over my. Yeah, I'm gonna be Ryan. I fucked this up. I don't know how to do this. We are not live.
We are not live. I just got peanut butter and egg on my face,
and it's in my laptop. No, but again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was, as always, a pleasure to have Sammy. Any of the IU fans that Sammy and other IU accounts helped retweet for us to get some attention to this episode, we really appreciate you if you joined us tonight. or if you watch this video at a later date or check out the audio version. Just remember, if you're on either the YouTube, ITP CFB, or the podcast platform, give us a like, give us a review, hit subscribe on YouTube, just helps us grow the show. And as always, give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter/X to help us grow the show there. We love to interact with you guys. It's enjoyable. It's what makes it fun. And then we also gain insight from people. So appreciate y'all for tuning in tonight.
Thank you, everyone, once again for listening to Inside the Pile on a Midwest College Football Podcast. We'll be back with you all on Thursday.
See ya.
The RSS